Okay, thanks for the patience, everyone. We were waiting on a bill to come in. So we have that in the packet now. We're going to go ahead and start this and call the meeting of the House Higher Education Committee to order. 22nd day of March 2023. We have three items on the agenda we'll hear this afternoon. We're going to go first to Senate Bill 112. Senate Bill 112. Senator, if you want to come forward. And where is Senate Bill 112? Senator, I know we worked on some things together, took some notes. Do you want to just talk to your proposition and I'll talk some changes? I know there were some changes. We did a good job down in Senate Higher Ed, so
yeah, we did good.
We'll do that, but I'll leave that to you for right now. Yes, sir.
I think everybody's already heard my proposition on this. I think overall the concept is something we need to pass in Georgia. And first, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for working with us on this. I think I'm going to turn it back to you because I know we've got time constraints in terms of if you want to go through the bill. I do have a couple questions I want to ask about, but I'll let you kind of go through this committee sub, and then we can, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. That might be expeditious. I'll try to be brief. We did email this committee sub, and we're working on 500596S. We did a couple of things with input from a variety of places, including members of this committee. The first thing I would draw attention to is the eligible student requirements that are now on line 38 through 43. You used to, starting at the top, it used to read over 21 years old. We now say over 21 but under 30 years of age. I actually see one thing that didn't make it in the bill that I'll speak to you later. The idea was to have that over 21 but under 30 years of age at the time of enrollment. So if a 29-year-old was in the program, they could complete it. That would really extend it to, a 30, 31, 32-year-old person. So we would need to amend that. Had not attained diploma was in there. We on line 41, that's the same language that was taken out of Senate Bill 233 to assure citizenship. In number D, and it was suggested that we take care of folks that were that we had previous investments in Georgia high school, so they had been previously enrolled in Georgia high school, that were put in as far as the eligibility requirements for a student. You'll see that we had presenters and people interested that were other than nonprofit, so we changed private nonprofit throughout the bill to third parties, and we said third parties or the state board. That would be the Board of Technical TCSG. Specifically, they could be a provider here in certain circumstances. I know that the presenters that had told us our programs in the past had wraparound services. Certainly that is a benefit to the folks that require those, but there may be, we learned through the pandemic, some people wanted an education, some people wanted a college experience. We think in this case, there may be people that need those wraparound services. There may be other people that could fit into the program that TCSG is currently authorized to offer to those under 21, if you recall Senator Tippin's bill last year. So the state, you'll see third parties or the state board. I took one finding out just because online there were a number of recurrences where it wasn't quite 1 million Georgians without a high school diploma, so I wanted to be careful about putting that in there. But as I've spoken with the senator, whether it's 1 million or 800,000 or 900, there's too many. So we didn't do anything else with the findings. On page next. Let me back up a page here. I'm sorry. We changed the pilot program. Instead of talking to No more than 3 program locations. The pilot program shall include at least 2 distinct programs offered by third parties or the state. So we're not limiting locations. We're just saying there should be at least 2 distinct programs. So we're hoping we'll have at least one third party, in the state board interested in that. On line now 78, we just changed the wording. I'm sorry, let me back up to line 64. We said subject to appropriations, specifically for the purpose of the pilot program, the state board is authorized to allocate funds. That's wordsmithing, if you will, from provide funds is to allocate the funds. We took for the implementation of a program out because we just spoke to the pilot program. Then down in B, we said with those allocated funds, they'll be paid on course completion. We heard that from a number of the members to do that. Funding of seats has been questionable, in cases we heard earlier in this committee about funding at the TCSG level, that we fund all the programs the same at the seat level, and sometimes there's a want to get people just in the seats rather than a completion. So we focused on completion, and that's the major that's the changes. There were also suggestions on reporting that came through that were included, but you can see that on lines 87 through 90 relative to reporting and outcomes. So with that, those are the changes. So, Senator, if you have questions about those, or
Yeah.
you and I can.
Yeah, I'll be really brief.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
touch on at least two or three of them just real quick, and then we can talk offline after this
Yes, sir.
meeting, as we discussed. So, line 39, in terms of the age, I want to be sensitive to the age. I understand I think the idea of what we're going to do there, but also just want to remind everyone, I think the average age of folks in this program is 31, 32. So I think if we're going to have a age limit range, if we can include those in their lower 30s, if that's even a way to say it, just something to consider. The other part too, I think line 63, just to be clear, make sure I understood you, Mr. Chairman, at least 2 distinct programs, so that would not limit it to 3 or 4, correct? Okay.
Distinct programs.
So I just want to make sure that, because I know a lot of work's going on in Savannah, Macon, and Columbus, that if 3 of those communities or there's other parties, and I know why we wrote third parties in here, we're not limiting it to just the.
No, and to be clear, I think the TCSG would be the person selecting those programs.
Correct.
I think they might see those programs as one program if they're implementing the same thing across different locations. The goal here was to allow the program irrespective of where it was located. So
Right.
I think that's more flexible for
That
the
makes sense.
implementation. Yes, sir.
And then I know the accreditation part was in here, and I know we talked to TCSG about that at the beginning of session, and I'll tell Mr. Peavy, because I know he's in the room, the commissioner, that I know there's an accreditation piece to that, and I know that I would help them raise the money, which I think is a pretty low cost for them to get the accreditation, just to kind of see this through, which I know we talked about. I think those are kind of my main questions, and I'll turn it back over to you and the committee. The only other thing I would talk about is, I think, line 43, in terms of those have been previously enrolled in a high school in the state. Only question would be, how would that be monitored, or how would we get that documentation? Would that be somebody turning over partial transcripts if they dropped out at 9th or 10th grade, or just any feedback on that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. What I had understood for that specifically was that you would be checking them as to where they were starting in the process. I felt like if that was going to be done, you would be pulling a transcript of some sort from a place. I guess one could delete high school and just say a school and say in the event that somebody dropped out before high school. But I think for the most part, I think one has to be 17 now, I think, in Georgia to do that. But that's where that came from. And again, I going back to your question on age, the write-up, the attorney did a stellar job in putting this together. I think the one note I had but under 30 years of age, I may have actually jotted that down on the paper at the time of enrollment. I may have jotted that down after I gave her her copy. So I'll apologize for that, and at the appropriate time, I would move to do that. And again, I'm open. This was a thing I would entertain an amendment from the committee if they wish to deal with the age. I just know that there's going to be a large group of this and a large group of folks. So your points are well made. I'm open to the will of the committee on those items. Did you have anything further? We have a few questions.
No, I'm good right now.
If you'll work with me, and we'll tag team these.
Yep.
Thanks, Senator. Dr. Clark, number 2.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. You just spoke to one of my concerns, and that is line 39. I was a bit confused as to why we were capping it at 30 years of age, especially considering we just said 800,000 to 1 million people might be affected by this. And it seems to me like that can't possibly just be people between 21 and 30. And so I would like to propose an amendment that we just keep it the way it was before at 21 years of age, or cap it at 40 instead of 30. But I would think that if I'm an adult that is in my late 30s or maybe in my 40s, I don't have a high school diploma, and the world seems to be passing me by, this might be an opportunity for me to at least get that diploma and possibly, increase my.
When we get to the point for a minute, I'll recognize you, for an amendment and a discussion on that, and I'll offer my further thoughts to it at that time. Chairman Mafiak.
Concern was thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. My concern was the age too. I felt like it was a little young.
I think the chair should be offended by 30 being young and not 61, but I take the lady on her word. Chairman Knight.
Personally, I'm offended also.
60 is the new 30.
Well, 50-something also, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Knight, come on. I started it off.
Line 92, what is the definition of socioeconomic status as far as the demographic? I'm not sure how you define that or what makes up that status.
I'm sure that is a term that the attorney may define for us, but that was offered by someone that had was suggested reporting. So if you find the need to alter that, the chair would take that under advisement as well.
Thank you.
Number 13, is that President Bentley?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, we've been working on this legislation since last year and a lot this session. Are we going to be voting on this today, you think?
That'd be up to you and your colleagues along here.
I make a motion to pass.
We're going to get to that. If we're going to get in that posture. Let me make sure there's not a question. I'll come back to you. Do we have any further questions? Any further questions? If Senator, you have anything else you'd like to impart upon us before we move to the will of the committee?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like we're all on the same page. I think in terms of addressing line 39, and I think if there's some other edits we need to make, I'll work with you in the committee after this meeting, just as we continue the last 6 or 7 days of session.
Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the author, thank you for working on this. I know I've stressed the amount of concern regarding funding, but I want to thank you for tightening up this bill and what you've done here. And I know that we are trying to make sure that we're helping folks obtain an education so they can better their lives. But I also know that a lot of our business community, and we talk about funding, I'll be willing to help you with this. But a lot of our big companies and folks that are in these areas that we know where there's a need, I want us to make a public statement here that helping with these type of services is only going to help them, because they are also the ones that are out there with workforce. And I appreciate what you've done by tightening up, and just want to make that suggestion as we go forth. Good partnerships from our corporate citizens to help in this program would be greatly appreciated, and I appreciate what you've done.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, real quick, I'd just say thank you to that, and I think also to your point, I think there are also a lot of medium and small sized businesses in our districts, and I know you know this, just who will probably be impacted in a way in some of these geographic areas of our state, in addition to these companies that are coming here that need 20,000 people. I know they're in your district and my district, where we don't have these large companies necessarily located, although sometimes we wish we did, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
I saw a flash there for a second. All right, well, I'm going to go back to Representative Bentley if there are no more questions. No more questions. Representative?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion that we pass Senate Bill 112.
Now would be that time.
Well, I make a motion that we pass Senate Bill 112.
I have a motion, this do pass. Is there a second? I have multiple seconds. We are now in the process of discussion. The chair's going to take latitude and offer an amendment from the chair that on line 39, after the word age, we would insert at time of enrollment. Does everybody understand this? But this does not have to be the only amendment, nor does this amendment have to pass. But this, I want to, whatever number we decide on, if one starts, I don't want them to get cut off based on their age. Okay, does that make sense? So that would be the chair's motion to at time of enrollment. Is there a second? Have a motion and a second. Is there objection to that one? I'll just go ask if there's objection. I think that's a friendly amendment for John. I don't think anybody would want somebody to start and be cut off based on age. So without objection, that is amended on line 39. After age would read at the time of enrollment. Okay, under discussion. Are there further discussion? Chairman Knight.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, and I don't know if you want to recognize me, but back to the last part of line 39, as far as the age, if the average age is 31 to 32, maybe we suggest, and I'd be open for discussion with the committee, but 35.
You're recognized for that as amendment if you're offering 30 be stricken and replaced with 35.
Yes, sir. I think that would be a good one, because again, as long as they enroll before 35, they can complete.
Let me get you a second, and then we'll let you discuss. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. Now you tell us why that's a good idea, Chairman Knight.
Again, with your amendment, at the time of enrollment, that would give somebody up to the age of 35 to enroll in this program, and then still complete the program after the age of 35. And it's a pilot program. We can see what happens, and if we start seeing again things change or the need, we can come back and up the age.
The gentleman's motion is on line 39 to strike 30 and replace that with 35. Further discussion. Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to hear from someone from the program as to whether they feel 35 is a good cutoff age since they've been administering this program across the country.
Well, we're not in that posture right now because we're in the process of action. You're welcome to step out and ask someone, but we're not in the posture to take comment from outside the committee.
Oh, never mind, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I would, if I may offer in discussion purposes, I think the gentleman has already mentioned that he wants to talk about other items on the bill. And I think we do have to keep in mind that if there's a large number, we're only going to be able to get to a subset of that with our pilot and programs here. I think there would be an ample plenty of people to take advantage between 21 and 35.
Yeah, to your point, Mr.
We're also, I'm sorry, Mr. Senator, unless we have a question, I've got to hold of that for everybody. Who is number 10 over there? Number 10 is Representative Jackson. Yes, ma'am.
I am concerned about the number. I think all of us must have realized that 39 was not going to be a good number. That the number here, where it was 30 years, that we should have more, a little higher number. And then the number 40 came about, and I thought that was a good number. I would like to know the rationale of trying to change it to 35 instead of 40. Is there a rationale of why we cannot do it up to 40?
Does the gentleman want to address that, or does he want to? Yes, sir.
To my friend, we heard in testimony that the average age is 31 to 32. Okay. Again, this is a pilot program. Simply added another 3 years on top of the 32. And again, with the amendment made by the chair that as long as they enrolled before this age, then they would be able to complete that. In other words, go a few years after they had exceeded the age that we set within the bill. Again, it's a pilot program. As I understand it and had talked with many folks who are trying to do this process, they were targeting a lot of folks that maybe missed high school for whatever reason and were coming back. But it seemed to be that age, not necessarily 40 and 50 and 60 years of age. It was folks that were 10, 15 years out from high school, or from that age of completion of high school.
Thank you. I see no further discussion. The motion we have before us is the adoption of the amendment on line 39 to strike 30, replacing that with 35. No further discussion. All those in favor of the motion is to approve the amendment, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. It is 35. Any further discussion? If not, what we have before us is LC 500596S, the House Committee substitute to Senate Bill 112 as amended. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, no. Move on to rules. I need to go do a form for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and everyone.
Senator, Chairman Stevens is going to carry this in the House for you, right? He had the companion bill?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Chairman Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Well, welcome, Senator. Let me get us on the right page here, literally. LC 500597S. Is that what we got here?
That is correct, sir.
All right. We've asked the senator's going to tell us again briefly about Senate Bill 137, his measure, and then I'll either mention or I don't think Chairman Dempsey's here. She can mention briefly what we've done to help the senator out.
Thank you.
Senator Burns.
Thank you. First of all, I'm happy to be here, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to work with the committee and certainly with Chairman Dempsey on Senate Bill 137, the substitute as offered by the committee, and you have the LC number. Ladies and gentlemen, basically this is a combination of two bills. House Bill 228, which passed the House on 3-6 overwhelmingly, and Senate Bill 137, which we heard in committee earlier, and it passed the House actually on the same, passed the Senate on the same day, March the 6th, again overwhelmingly. So what these two bills do is enhance the ability for students to access tuition equalization grants where they are accredited by SAC, COC, and offer a completion rate in critical areas like nursing of 85% or higher. So what you will see is that Section 2 is House Bill 228. Section 3 is Senate Bill 137, and they both mirror similar definitions and languages. They both require, if you'll note on line 72 and again on line 105, that students must enroll in these institutions on or before July 1st, 2025. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to defer to my colleague, Chairman Dempsey, for any questions or comments or points of edification.
Yeah. No.
We're seeing it kind of right now.
But y'all have heard the bill that he's speaking of
yes.
that addresses
Yeah.
the nursing for years. So
Yeah,
that's,
yes, ma'am. I can help the chair lady do it. This is House Bill 228. The exact language is added in this bill. I think Chair Lady Dempsey's bill over in the Senate has picked up a lot of partners, a lot of other ideas. So we just want to make sure that these two items are about the TEG, which some of your partners over in the Senate are also, but these two are directly related to nursing. So we wanted to put those together. And I did want to mention that the Senator Burns has been gracious to allow us. We'll put the same language that this would be an approved institution for those enrolled before July 1st, 2025. So we've treated this new addition the same as we had treated the institution under Chair Lady Dempsey's proposition.
so Mr. Chairman, so it does appear, as I look at it kind of quickly, that it addresses the huge concern we have with the nursing
Yes.
shortage in our state, and that was the focus of that bill all of these years that so many of you have supported and voted on multiple times.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, that in Senate Bill 137, that is targeted at institutions that offer critical workforce training needs in the professional areas, including nursing. So we're grateful for the partnership. Thank you.
Who would carry this for you in the?
I've asked Chairman Dempsey if she would be kind enough to carry it.
Very well. Noted. Yeah, do we have questions? You have?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious because I know when we do this, which I am not opposed to, we are adding to the number of students that are eligible for TEG. And appropriations, does anyone know if we have increased the amount appropriated for this, or is it going to be more students taking from the same pool of money?
The appropriations process is more independent, and I would have to check and see if it was modified. I know that in the case of Senate Bill 137, we were looking at roughly 550 or so students who would become eligible. Right now, that grant is $1,000, actually $900.
Yeah.
Used to be higher, but so it's a relatively nominal amount. I would point out that because of the eligibility for TEG grants, that would make them eligible to apply for HOPE, but they would have to qualify for HOPE. So at least in the 137 component, we feel is relatively limited, but the reality is that these are the same students that we already offer this benefit to in dozens of other private institutions in our state.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for this bill. I just have a couple questions. How many are we limiting the number of private colleges and universities or is this just open to all the ones that are in Georgia?
If you will look at Section 3, at least in that component of the bill, it is restricted to those institutions who have accreditation by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, SAC-COC, and they have to have been here for a decade. So in the old bill, it was before January the 1st of 2011, and now they have to be here before January 1st, 2021. So you've got institutions who are long-standing education suppliers in our state. Certainly, we know the larger, more common reference points, certainly Emory or Mercer or other institutions like that, Oglethorpe.
Clayton State.
Clayton
State.
State is a public institution, part of the university system.
Yeah,
of Georgia.
but they have nursing though.
Yeah, they do. They certainly do. But by the way, they already qualify for all of the benefits of a public institution. TEG is a benefit for our private partners, and I'm a strong advocate for education, both at the public and the private level. This regrettably only allows about a 4% support level when you consider tuition and cost of attendance. That $1,000 is 4.1% or something like that.
Okay, and then I know that you said that it's open for all critical areas, but if we're specifying nursing in here and we're not putting in the other critical areas, how are they going to know that they can apply for this if they're in another area that we need employees?
If you're enrolled in a qualified institution, there is no restriction on which major you can pursue. However, the institutions that are currently enjoying the benefit and the proposed ones from Chairwoman Dempsey's have very, very strong nursing programs, and we need as many skilled nursing and as many skilled healthcare workers as we can produce.
No, I agree with that part. I just
There's no restriction in Section 3 about the major. I would suggest to you that a large percentage of these individuals, however, pursue those types of degrees.
Oh, at those colleges. Okay, thank you.
I certainly like this bill. I do want to just ask one quick question in Section 3, line 95.
Yes.
We've stricken 10 years. So on this part of the bill, the institution does not have to be here for 10 years?
That's true. We've stricken that requirement, but we require them to have been here physically in Georgia, located on or before 2021. And if you look on line 97, it requires that they be here by January 1st of 2011. That was stricken in May 2021. So what we're trying to do is expand eligibility for TEG grants.
So
Now,
for the newer
for
institutions?
any institution that has the accreditation and the degrees that are accredited by SAC-COC.
But in Section 2, we're keeping in the 10 years? I was just confused about that.
I don't believe there's a requirement for that.
Well, in
I lost
Section
my-
2, line 80, it basically says that
See.
the institution has to have been in the state January 1, 2011. Or
Which
do
is-
we
which-
need to have continuity?
Is that not the same language?
Yeah.
No, one is 2011 and the
yeah,
other one is
Let-
2021.
Let me go, that's a different, I believe it's referred to as sub paragraph. And if you look at the 4 on 79, that's a different way that you qualify for TEG. If you go back to the bill, starting on line 37, you'll see the first way you qualify, little I-1. On 54, you'll see the new little I-2 for the proprietary qualifications. Then you'll see little I-3 on 73 and 4 on 79. So in that particular area, it's staying 10 years. This area, we're changing that for this particular type of institution. there's a reason for, there's different ways to qualify for the TEG, so we're not moving it for that institution. So it's targeted. Yes, ma'am. Representative Knight, Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I go back to some concerns here, and again, to my friend, I appreciate the bill and both my friends. I've got my sweet mate and Senator Yu, but I want to make sure that we understand that this is not just about TEG.
It's not.
The bills have been brought before us on I guess on the thought of this opens up TEG to these students, but it opens up Hope.
Yes.
It opens up, the regular Hope Private, the Zell Private. It opens up student access loan, and also opens up dual enrollment. And I've expressed some concerns again in the House as we've vetted my friend's bill about cost, and so this will indeed put a burden on the budget, and it will be significant. We've got the numbers for both, and I'll just leave it at that. I've got serious concerns as we look into the future of our existing technical colleges and USG. So I want to make that very clear. And the Senate, and again, Senator, I know, we just got the budget back from the Senate. They've cut, I think, the Hope grants. So we're sitting here adding on one hand, and on the other hand, the budget just came out from your side, and it cut Hope. So I'm trying to figure out where we're going to get money from.
Certainly the chairman knows of what he speaks. He understands the budget much better than I, and I would not challenge anything that he shares. We do realize that it's not all about TEG. It's about access to high quality education. The only thing I would remind the committee of is that this is nothing. It's not a new policy. It's nothing new. It does extend to additional institutions the availability of utilizing the current system, and it certainly does put pressure on Hope. It puts pressure on all of our funding for higher education. But what we're seeing right now in both Chairwoman Dempsey's bill and in the bill that I have, it's an opportunity for us to create a more equal environment so that students can choose which institutions they prefer or best feel that would serve their needs.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am too concerned about the removal of the 10 years. It bothers me because we have so many schools of nursing that are within the university system. And this is being opened up to a private institution, am I correctly?
It would be a private institution with the appropriate accreditation requirements. By the way, Representative, in order to receive SAC COC accreditation, it's a 5-year process.
I know.
So you've been there, I've been there. And I've served on the board of SAC COC. I've gone through accreditation processes. So if an institution opened today, it would be a minimum of 5 years before they could be accredited. And the reality is it's closer to 7 or more. So these are not potentially fly-by-night institutions.
Where are these institutions?
They are throughout the state of Georgia availability.
Available to join in to this process.
That's correct.
So that they will not be, if they have been out there for 7 years, they had the SACS, the SACS is 5 years.
Minimum.
A minimum of 5 years. I guess that was the one line that I had concern about. I'm always looking for our institutions that are a part of the university system and see what we can do to make sure that they
I totally agree with you,
access.
Representative. 30 years university system, that's my first love.
Me too.
And I would suggest to you that as strong and as effective as our university system is, we don't have enough slots in nursing schools to accommodate the demand.
Yes.
And as much as I'd love to tell you, and I had a nursing program when I was president at Gordon State, it was always oversubscribed. We would have hundreds of applicants for 40 slots. So this is an opportunity for us to meet the critical workforce needs in healthcare and in other areas. So I
Thank you.
fully support our public schools, and we'll always do that. But I also feel that we have to provide some alternatives for workforce requirements and for needs, just the state needs.
Thank you.
Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Senator, as you were speaking, I was just doing a little bit of math in my head.
Sure.
If a school was located in a state starting in 2021, but the students who are enrolled have to be enrolled before 2025, that's not 5 years. So
No,
were
they would not qualify under this legislation, Representative. That would be, if a school started in 2021, those students would never be eligible for this support because their institution could not be accredited in that period of time.
Right. So as a follow-up, the schools that, because a lot of times when we get these bills, yes, they don't put a school name in there, but usually it's for a specific school.
Yes.
The schools that are asking for this bill,
Yes.
they are already accredited somewhere else. They just got to Georgia
No.
in a
They
certain
have been
time.
in Georgia and accredited in Georgia. If you understand the accreditation process, you have to be accredited at every location.
Right. So then
They came after 2011, Dr.
They
Clark.
came after 2011, but because they came after 2011, or actually after 2011 would then be the point from 2011 to 2021. But they have been long-standing education providers.
Okay. All right. The math isn't mathing for me, but that's
I
fine.
understand.
Further questions? All right, hearing no further questions, we have before us Senate Bill 137 by substitute LC 500597.
I think say we have a quorum, Mr. Chairman. Maybe we need to take a brief pause.
We did. We talked ourselves right out of a quorum, including your co-sponsor, Chair Lady Dempsey. What I'm going to ask you to do, Senator, or you've answered our questions. You may have a place you need to go. We have a house. Yeah, we have a house member that has a resolution he wants to talk to us about. So we're going to do that.
All right.
And I'm going to ask the committee if you could get a member or two. I know Chairman Dubnik was here. If we can get a couple people to get back, we'll do that. So, and if you need to go, Senator, we got you covered.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
We
Mr.
got
Chairman.
you covered. You might want to look at the House higher ed roster and suggest somebody come see us.
That's a great
I
idea.
mean, I say that tongue in cheek,
No,
but very
I'll be-
seriously.
I'll be happy to work on that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we're gonna move on here now. Representative, you want to have a seat and tell us about your House Resolution 281, LC 365522.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Chairman Martin, members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. I'm happy to present HR 281. LC number on that is 365522, which is a pretty straightforward piece of legislation that would create a House study committee to review the roughly $1.4 billion lottery reserve and explore opportunities to better leverage those lottery resources to meet the growing needs of and further educational opportunities for pre-K children and HOPE recipients. So I don't need to speak to you all about just how critical early childhood learning is, and as well as just how life-changing HOPE and that scholarship and resources can be to a young person pursuing their post-secondary pursuits. The lottery currently mandates in our Constitution that we keep 50% of the year's prior net proceeds. And then of that 50%, roughly 2/3 sits in an unrestricted account, which totals to roughly $1 billion that we can use and deploy at our will and are not. And that unrestricted account since 2011, year over year, has grown between 75 and 100% annually. So we're talking $160 million unrestricted account that we can use for our children that has grown to roughly $1 billion today. And so we obviously want to be responsible stewards of our resources. And I know that the lottery has undergone some inflection points in 2011, and given the economic crisis and budget crunch, we had to make some changes, and again in 2016. But we have a growing number of pre-K children on wait lists. The senator was talking about just how oversubscribed many of these slots are. Schooling for our younger children and our older college goers is rising by the day. And this committee provides us with an opportunity to be deliberate, to learn more about those impacts, Mr. Chair, and to form some recommendations one way or the other going forward. And so I'll stop there, Chairman Martin, and I'm happy to receive any comments or questions that the committee may have.
Thank you for your presentation. You have a couple of questions. Number 3, yes, Representative Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for presenting this resolution. I believe it's much needed as we're trying to push sports betting, and the money would all go to the lottery. So I feel like this is much needed to see if we can distribute those funds in better places. So I just wanted to say I appreciate this resolution.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative, for bringing this. I think I would agree with my colleague that it's much needed. Is there some preliminary looking at the way that, and I imagine we put this 50% reserve in place in 1992 when we had no idea how the lottery would progress. We didn't have any historical data. Do we have a sense of how this compares to other states' lotteries? Are we way over indexing on the security of having those proceeds in case of a shortfall?
Rep. Holland, that's a great question. I don't know how we stack up against other states, but I can tell you that it hasn't always been 50%. It was between 10 to 20% that we had to store in our reserves roughly a decade ago. I'm not saying that we need to go all the way back down to 10 to 20%, but it does demand a review of that threshold to see if it fits and is commensurate with the needs of today, given that we have, again, roughly $1.4 billion sitting in account that could go towards getting our 4-year-olds into preschool educational opportunities and providing more financial relief for families and college-going Georgia graduates.
Thank you.
I want to, if the gentleman, if he would, if we'll suspend on this for a moment. I think we have a number that we're looking for here. So if the gentleman wouldn't mind suspending,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
I'm going to go back and you can stay in your seat. I'm going to call back up Senate Bill 137, Senate Bill 137, and LC 500597S. The committee is in a position to move on that item. What's the pleasure of the committee? Have a motion this item do pass by committee substitute, or as the committee substitute. I have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion? Raise your hand because the lights are flashing for questions about for the gentleman. So if you have a question or discussion, raise your hand. I see none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. All right, I'm going to go with a division of the House. I'm just going to ask for a raised hand. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Do you have a count? Okay, we have
Senate bill.
all those opposed? 3. Okay, we're good. That bill passes, moves on to rules. Senate Bill 137 LC 500597. Okay, we're going to come back here to the gentleman. We have a couple of more questions. Representative Glaze.
I definitely want to say thank you for a representative for bringing this study. Can you share with me the connection between pre-K and literacy by 3rd grade? I know you work in that space. Can you help us with the connection that we can make to enhance literacy by 3rd grade by putting more of our pre-K lottery dollars there?
That's a good question for a different day. We're talking about a study committee. So I'll allow you to answer a brief question. I just don't want to.
Yes, sir.
We don't want to turn this to a hearing. That belongs to Chairman Irwin down in education, not higher education. But I'll allow you brief.
Thank you, Chairman and Representative Glaze. I appreciate the question. And quickly, it's early learning education is the foundation that, drives reading, writing, children being able to do math on grade level by 3rd and 5th grade, additional support, boost vocabularies, the social emotional support that they receive. That foundational step really ensures that students, all students, regardless of their backgrounds or economic circumstances, start off on the right foot towards their educational pursuits. And obviously, I work with students further downstream in high school, but that they have all that they need to graduate and go on and secure gainful employment.
Thank you for allowing me to question, Chair.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't mind the question. I didn't mean to be short with you, Representative. I know we have other meetings to get to, and we have a couple of speakers on the bill.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Knight.
Thank you. Representative, just a couple things that I see in this proposed resolution for a study. Line 18, it says targeted jurisdictions. This is in regards to your pre-K comments that you just made, which are sort of opposite. I mean, you're talking about for all pre-K kids. Your statement was anywhere, everywhere, but yet your language in here says targeted jurisdictions. Could you tell me where these targeted jurisdictions are that's associated with this language?
Thank you, Chairman, for that question. So I would say that it remains to be seen. One of the biggest issues as it relates specifically to pre-K is we have roughly 75,000 4-year-olds enrolled, and yet we have 130,000 odd 4-year-olds eligible. And so the study committee gives us an opportunity, if it makes sense, to provide targeted support in areas where the need is greatest. It also does not preclude the committee. Again, this is purely exploratory. There aren't resources being divvied up and allocated to any specific communities or parts of the state, Chairman. It just states that if needed, if we did need to drill down on specific communities that demonstrate a great need, it could be parts of rural Georgia, it could be parts of your district, my district. A lot of that remains to be seen. This study committee allows us to further explore that.
Representative, I appreciate it, but I think your comments ending on line 17 would have taken care of expanding access to pre-K classrooms and serving more children would have been sufficient, because that's what we want to do, no matter where they are, what area of the state, where it's rural, urban.
I agree.
City, big areas like Atlanta or other areas. This is the targeted thing is bothersome. Second question is I want to make light, because I know this committee has worked hard. This chairman's worked hard. We've all worked hard on budgets and language we've passed, but while cost of college has risen, this General Assembly has done its best to make sure that we were keeping up. We've raised, in the past, the hope and made sure we're getting up and paying for the cost. This chairman has worked hard on the, closing the gap on those completion loans. We put more money in to make sure that we're here in addition to the other loans that are available. I just want to make sure that this resolution that comes out makes it look like, we've done nothing, which I think is very much opposite of what not only this committee's done, but we've done through the budget.
Yes,
And
sir.
you voted on to put money in here to put more money into higher ed to make sure that all of our Georgia citizens have access to this. And there are a bunch of good schools around this state, not just the big ones that win football championships or the ones that are, downtown
All right,
Atlanta.
now I'm
So-
gonna call him out. I'm gonna call him down.
And Chairman, I'm open to an amendment if the committee sees fit to strike out the use of targeted jurisdictions in line 18. And to your point, I'm 100% in agreement with you and hope that this opportunity to further study and examine how we can get better use out of those funds to serve all children only serves to strengthen the work that this committee and many of you have done.
Dart Clark.
Mr. Chairman, this is a great study committee, and like other study committees, it does give us an opportunity to put, a lot of these thoughts into action and, propose things for our state. So at the appropriate time, I would like to make a motion to
I'll
pass.
get back to you there. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the bill. This is needed. I will say I do believe that Georgia is the only state that all of their lottery money goes to education. So I know that was a question. The other part of it is that, and I do understand money, but we know that with Hope there has been some restrictions put in there. And so therefore, a lot of the children that live in certain neighborhoods don't have access. By the time Hope comes around, they don't have the same access. And so by looking at, as a retired educator, by looking at pre-K and seeing what we can do to have more children in pre-K, that will increase their chances of going to a 4-year institution and receiving Hope. And yesterday we passed our SPLOS, and so Clayton County, all of our children are going to go that qualify will be in pre-K. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Okay. Representative Bentley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the representative for his work on this resolution and suggest that once this is complete, to please consider rural Georgia for area for a hearing.
We will definitely make that consideration, and I want to circle back to Chairman Knight's point. This gives us an opportunity again to be deliberate and to do that work, which is really difficult to do in 40 days. We're moving at a rapid clip. This gives us time to be very intentional and to pull in stakeholders from all regions and corners of our state to make the best recommendations, not even decisions, but just come up with some recommendations and have the data and information in hand to move with a purpose and move with a level of responsibility that's nimble to the needs of our communities, our families, and our children.
Two more quick questions. We do have two speakers on this. Representative Jackson.
Oh, thank you for bringing this to us. I don't know if we recall that last year we were talking about pre-K, early childhood, you name it. It was one of the governor's programs. I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, this is a good start, and I like the idea. I know that there needs to be a study, not just in the rural area, but also in our metropolitan areas, coming down on the other side of Macon. So I really hope that we are able to put this study together so that we will have real data that can be brought back to us, and then we can make some real major decisions, because we do need to start at an early age for our children.
Thank you, Representative.
Is this the time to offer an amendment to strike?
Yeah, I probably didn't set our stage right. Given this talk so much about pre-K, and I talked to the gentleman about it, is we've been asked to do these out of our committees rather than study committees, but I wanted to give the gentleman an opportunity to talk about this. We're not gonna be in a position to move on this today. Again, for a couple of reasons, we've been asked to work out of our committees with this, so we will work on several things, and then we'll meet next Tuesday, again, as a committee to talk about what we're gonna do in the interim. But I'm going to, take the gentleman over to I mean, you know Chairman Irwin, but your focus on pre-K needs to be in that committee. We're very careful in this committee last week not to bite into the area where K-12 education is. So we're not going to be in a position to move on this matter today, but I did want to give the gentleman the opportunity to speak to it because it was his thoughts and his ideas, and I think it can key a study of our, and I'll have a brief comment after we hear testimony on this about the Hope funds and where they're at, and also bifurcate it into a K-12. So with that, Secretary of the Committee, Carter Barrett.
Thank you, Representative, for this thoughtful resolution. Can you confirm what the required reserve is and what the actual is? I missed that.
Yeah, so it's 50% of the previous year's net revenue.
Okay, and the actual, where are we today relative to that number?
1.4 billion.
And it should be, it has to be by mandate. I don't know what the gross number was. What is it?
I could try and get that number to you. I'm not sure if it's fixed to a total amount or if it's just fixed to a percentage of the previous year's raise. But I can circle back, Representative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all of our questions. So let's, if again, you can remain seated, Representative.
Okay.
We'll go to speakers. We'll ask them to use the podium. Ms. Young, are there two of you, or did you take somebody's place? Okay, I just saw two names. There's David Schaefer. Just you. Okay, yes. I couldn't tell if there was a line through his name or he signed his name on the line, I think. So, yet. Okay, I got you.
To go.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashley Young, Education Analyst at Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. I would just like to state that I am in full support of H.R. 281, House Study Committee on Lottery Revenues and Reserves for Educational Programs. As a former college counselor in Atlanta Public Schools, ensuring that students have adequate funding for college is at the very top of my priority list. What is equally as important is the scholarship policy development process to provide race and class equity, which has brought me here today. I would like to leave you all with two major asks as you embark on this endeavor. In this bill on lines 19 and 20, the bill states that a part of the study will center on the fact that college costs have risen, making college inaccessible to low-income students in Georgia. With this knowledge, I ask that you please focus on the establishment of comprehensive need-based financial aid programs, support that would provide grants to students in the initial college-going phase as first-year students, particularly for those who have been historically excluded from building wealth in this country. My second ask pertains to lines 21 and 22. This bill states that the serious consideration will be given in an effort to utilize the surplus lottery funds for matters such as financial support for students who are financially marginalized. I ask that bill sponsors be intentional about critiquing the second-order effects caused by the Hope Scholarship Program, which have created both race and class disparities. In a state like Georgia, where merit scholarship reigns supreme, we have witnessed a reality of how it has overshadowed the urgency of a need-based scholarship program. I sometimes joke that talking about hope in Georgia is like being in a room and someone has a big personality and you can't get a word in. Due to its robust nature. I want to be very clear that this is not an indictment on the Hope Scholarship. I'm simply asking you to make room and create space for a need-based financial aid program as Georgia is still only one of 2 states that does not offer comprehensive need-based aid. In closing, to reiterate, I support House Resolution 281, House Study Committee. Again, as lawmakers, I request that you dig deep and think about this. And by this, I mean the critical next steps toward creating comprehensive need-based aid. I'm honored to be a part of this discourse that will help shape such an important study that I know will yield fruitful findings, guiding us toward a more equitable college access in Georgia. Thank you for your time and your opportunity to lend my voice to such an important matter.
Ms. Young, thank you very much, and thank you for your patience in waiting with us. Is this Hannah Goldberg? Ms. Goldberg.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Hannah Goldberg. I'm the Research and Policy Director at GEARS, the Georgia Early Education Alliance for Ready Students. We are a birth through age 5 policy and research organization. And I'll start by saying that, certainly we know that we spend a lot of time in the early childhood and pre-K space, but we know that the lottery funds both early learning and higher ed and really help support children all the way through and into adulthood through their educational journey. I'll get straight to the point. We support this resolution. I think, as many of you know, for the last just over 30 years now, the lottery has successfully funded both Georgia Pre-K and the HOPE programs, and we are immensely grateful for that, and justifiably proud of our nationally recognized pre-K program here in the state. But we do believe that there are opportunities to strengthen both of these programs, and that we can and should utilize additional lottery funds to meet their needs. As you heard the representative say earlier, we know that Georgia is required by law to have 50% of the prior year's net proceeds saved in case of a shortfall, but we're putting far more than that into the reserves, and we have seen those usable, unrestricted reserves really grow tremendously over the course of the last decade or so. So you heard the representative say over $1 billion in usable, unrestricted reserves. That number was closer to 150 million, not billion, about 10 years ago. So at the same time that we know these lottery reserves are sitting untouched, Georgia's missing opportunities to strengthen and improve our pre-K program and the HOPE program as well, to serve more families, to serve more 4-year-olds, and improve the quality of the program, such as by reducing class size back to the recommended level, adequately compensating our teachers and assistant teachers, and ensuring that programs have the essential resources that they need to build those high-quality classrooms. In addition, we know that many other states, including states like Texas, have included 3-year-olds in their pre-kindergarten programs, and we know certainly that the need for high-quality early learning starts well before a child's 4th birthday, and that these programs also allow families to go to work, to advance their career, to receive additional post-secondary credentials. It's time for a conversation about when to use lottery reserves and how to prioritize those expenditures. We believe that establishing a study committee to examine these issues is an important step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Gonzalez, did you have a question for the lady?
I think the question was back to my chair. And
Yes, ma'am.
so my question was, would it be at this time appropriate to strike what is related to K4 and K4 through 12 from lines 17 and 18, and that way we would have a bill that would sit before higher ed versus education. Is that appropriate?
Well, yes, ma'am. We can talk about that. To our mission for that. The study, we won't be moving study committees this year because they're not going to move in rules, and it clogs the calendar. So we will have that discussion about what we will look at in between the days next 39 and 40. So I look forward to the ladies' comments in regards to that. I just wanted to bring the representative in today. He's obviously been very thoughtful in this. You're coming from 2 areas. I do want to add this and spread this for the area, and I appreciate the lady. I don't know if she's over there. I see her. You're right. We have restricted reserve. We have unrestricted reserves. I am one of the people that has a history long enough here. Looking at a spreadsheet I have when our reserves got way low. And I'm looking at the projections of the spreadsheet now, I know when you say a number and it starts with a B, that's a lot of money. But we had that, we had those unrestricted reserves that we saw fall very quickly during the Great Recession, that we lived through here, from 07, through 11, where unrestricted reserves got all the way down to 160 million. 160 million is a lot of money, but not when you're spending 1.2 billion a year. So, I mean, I agree that we want to look at this, but I think we also need to look at this when I think of financial advice. A lot of people, recommend you keep an emergency fund, right? Whatever that is, whatever you can afford, 30, 60 days, but they recommend you do that. And you keep an emergency fund based on your spend, not your salary. So one of the things we need to do here, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of others, is we don't keep a restricted reserve based on how much we make, how much revenue, but we keep a restricted reserve based on how much we are spending and our projected spending going forward. I think it's extremely unfair, whether it be, pre-K or Hope, to put students that start in Hope at a place where it might not be there for their sophomore, junior, senior year. So I understand and take to account both the speakers and the representative on the restricted and unrestricted reserves. I would just offer that based on projections, the lottery has done extremely well, but there are a lot of American citizens and those that play the lottery. Georgia citizens are fickle individuals. They're playing the lottery today and it's up, but it could go away. So all of that to say this, that when we say that the unrestricted reserve is very high, you're correct. But given the projections and the conversation we're having between 95 and fully funding Hope and the grants, I'm looking at projections that begin to eat into those reserves right away at what we're currently spending. I'm also seeing projections of spending on pre-K, almost doubling by 2035. Now that's 15 years out, and that doesn't account inflation and things. So all of that to say this, I thank the gentleman for bringing the items. We will definitely be looking at this. We're going to be looking at high school people without high school degrees that we've highlighted earlier today. We're going to be looking at dual enrollment. We're going to be looking at a number of things. And we'll certainly keep this in mind and make you aware of the committees that we're putting together to do that. So I'll give you the last word, and I think many of us have to get across the street for 3 o'clock. But you have anything you want to?
Just a simple thank you, Chairman and committee members, for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would say to the committee, this will be, I again want to try to get us together next Tuesday between days 39 and 40. It'll be for, we won't have any official business that I'm looking forward to, but I'd like to, we will get together, but for those that might not be able to make it then, I want to tell everybody how much I appreciate the folks that have supported us with information. I see many of them in the audience, not the least of which is President Riley with her, she and her staff on providing us information from Georgia Student Finance, which is the group that the engine that if you don't collect the money, I guess that's the Georgia Lottery that collects it, but you get it to the universities and the technical schools and the private institutions, so our students can keep it in. Thank you and your staff. There are other stakeholders that have been very valuable to the committee and to all the committee members. Occasionally we get behind and I'm a little quick. I guess I was a little quick with Representative Glaze today on her, but just trying to move us along. I appreciate the conversational and inquisitive nature of our committee. You're very valuable to your district and the people of Georgia. It's an honor to sit here with you, and I hope we get to do it again next year. I hope we all get to be here again in January of 2024, and we'll work together this summer. But if we don't get to meet again, I appreciate you very much. You're very dear to me, and a great group everybody talks about their committee being the greatest group in the world, and I know I know mine, our committee, it's your committee too, our committee is. So if there's no further business before the committee and there's no objection, we'll stand adjourned. Stand adjourned without objection. I see none. We are adjourned.